This talk is called NodeBots, Community and Lights. I'll be talking about NodeBots kind of like from a community perspective, even though I'm wearing a bunch of NodeBots. But anyway, I'm Cass. I'm also known as the Node botanist to a lot of people who don't know my name already or forget my name. I'm also many things. I am slightly autistic. I am adrift in many spectrums, which is kind of a nod to a few friends of mine. I'm socially anxious. I'm definitely an introvert. I'm a disenfranchised gamer, and I'm a hardware novice. All of these kind of make up various parts of who I am. I'm going to kind of skip this slide because the Wi-Fi is not working. I am a direct product of the communities that I was raised in. That definitely includes tech to a large degree. And I think a lot of people underestimate the value of community and the impact of community. And I find that we do that at our own expense. To go over that, I'm gonna start with some history. I might cry a little bit, honestly. I had kind of a rough time. I don't talk about this a lot. So year 2000, I was already the Node botanist. I just didn't know it yet. I spent my summers playing with RoboLab, which is now Mindstorms, the little Lego robots. I spent all my summers playing with those. My dad's an electrical engineer, and he would try to get me into hardware. And yeah, I was building robots and vending machines and things that threw the ball for the dog when I was a kid. And I just didn't know that hardware would be my thing yet, for real. But my first experience with community was really not great. It had to do with gaming. I bought a Game Shark, which, if you remember those from the cartridge days, you would plug the cartridge into the Game Shark, and the Game Shark would modify memory spaces in your game to give you things like infinite lives or modify the game in different ways. So I had a game, the Powerpuff Girls game, and I couldn't find Game Shark codes for it, so I learned how to rate them. And so I wrote some Game Shark codes for the Powerpuff Girls game, and I got on a forum for gaming codes, and I posted them. And I didn't expect a lot of people to use them, but the first 5 responses I got were, well, why did you waste your time on that? That's a stupid girl game. So that was fun. And obviously, gaming has not gotten much better. Anybody who's familiar with the term Gamergate would know that. It sucks. I can't use voice chat when I play video games. To this day, it's 2015, and I can't use voice chat when playing video games because I get called all sorts of horrible gendered insults that are absolutely atrocious. Yeah, it's awful. And so I took off. I was like, no, forums aren't for me. I'm just going to go build my own stuff and keep it to myself, and that's fine. And so that set a precedent for a lot of my life. So in the year 2004, it was awful. I was bullied every day. I remember of my senior high school year, we went on a trip, and I got on a bus, and everyone booed continuously for 30 seconds. Yeah. I insist that without the absolute support of my immediate family, I wouldn't be here today because of that relentless and absolute treatment by my peers and my community around me. And I wasn't necessarily the best person, and while I take responsibility for the actions that I took as a child, I also contend that I was a product of my environment to a certain degree. That doesn't absolve me of responsibility, it just explains some of the things that happened. I had some serious issues with communication. My autism was not diagnosed until I was an adult because of the way the autism community has kind of grown in the past decade. A lot of people are just now getting diagnoses in their 20s, 30s, etc. My only escape during these years was a program called RPG Maker, which is a point-and-click programming tool to build little RPGs. And I was learning Java, so I did some Java stuff. I couldn't control anything in my life, really, except these things. I could control my games, and I could control my Java code, and that's all I really could control in my life. I had to go to school every day. I had to put up with the torment every day, and I have to put up with people every day. But I could go home, go to my room, and work on my computer. And I was still in isolation. Luckily, in 2007, I graduated high school. I immediately left the town I grew up in, never to look back except to visit my parents. Yeah, I have every one of my high school classmates blocked on Facebook. It's great. Because now they all want to communicate with me because we're all adults now, but forget that. Anyway, 2010. Things were starting to look up. I was a PHP developer for my school and my college. I had some friends, not many, but enough to get by. And I started going to user groups in 2010, and that's really what changed a lot of my life. Tech tech kind of came into my life as sort of like this explosion, because I went from like developing in complete isolation because I didn't want to be around anybody, to speaking and to developing things on GitHub, and meeting all these wonderful people. So to continue, 2013, 2 years ago. This was an extremely pivotal year because that's when I got introduced to NodeBots and the NodeBots community. For those that don't know the NodeBots community, we're pretty great. I mean, I'm biased, but we're pretty great. But there was a double-edged sword with participating with community. I have not gotten through one conference without a code of conduct violation in my general direction. From rape jokes to misgendering of either myself or my friends, to all sorts of horrible things. I've received threats. Someone used whois to get the address attached to my domain and sent me an email saying they were going to come to my house. And I was less worried for myself, but my sister lives with me, and yeah, like I felt horrible because I put my sister in danger. Like, it's a double-edged sword when you get out there. And one of the other positives is I've learned a lot about gender and race and privilege in the past few years from the community, be it through actual knowledge or be it through watching horrible things happen. But yeah, this was the year I really started to join the community via the NodeBots community. A little bit more about us. There is a code of conduct for participating in the community in any shape, way, or form. All of our code projects have codes of conduct. Our forums have a code of conduct. Our Gitter channels have codes of conduct. I'll go over those a little more in later slides, but I feel this is one of our strengths. Fairly equal representation of genders, a very lo-fi but somewhat recent look at the core group of NodeBots is about 50-50 to gender. And, but we recognize the need to improve. We recognize diversity is not just white men and women. We recognize that we need to increase the diversity of our community in many ways. We recognize the need to improve in our own perfections. Like I said, we just recognize that we know we need to increase our diversity. We know we need to get better, and that it's never perfect. And one of the things I work towards, and a lot of us work towards, is treating new people with the same respect we treat core committers. I think we do that partially naturally because no one has been in NodeBots for very long. I mean, it's only been about 2 years. So a lot of us have only been around for 2 years. And so it's really easy to treat everyone with the same respect because none of us have been there that long. So the good thing about tech is, for the first time in my entire life, I have a support network outside my immediate family. I have friends that I can instant message and call for the first time, really, in my entire life. Community in tech has been one of the best things to ever happen to me because I spent my entire teenage years dreading anyone except my immediate family. And I now have role models, I have friends, I have people who challenge me, and community goes so much farther than code. Code is lines of text that a computer reads, but the community that surrounds it is so much more impactful and so much more important than the code we produce. So the present day. I'm in Ireland in a castle talking about NodeBots wearing a skirt with lights all over it. Like, sometimes I look at my life from an outside perspective and I'm like, what? I seriously think if you told 12-year-old me what I'd be doing today, she'd laugh at you for a while. It's kind of unbelievable what the community has been able to achieve and what I've been able to achieve thanks to my community. Community isn't perfect. Like I said, I've had threats and code of conduct violations, and we're still arguing codes of conduct, which don't even get me started on that. And but I feel like generally we're starting to improve day by day. Every day someone recognizes that code of conducts aren't about them. Every day someone recognizes that this room is entirely too monochromatic. Every day, we're moving minds closer and closer to a better community. And I rarely speak in absolutes, but I will say this. A more diverse community will cause better code. I have absolutely zero doubt in my mind, and I'd be willing to gamble every physical possession I own, that a diverse community will produce better code. End of statement. I feel comfortable and supported by my community. And again, that is so much more valuable than any lines of code, than any helpful Stack Overflow answer, than any JavaScript repository. You can't find an NPM install that will make you feel comfortable sleeping at night, that will make you feel comfortable standing on a stage and telling everyone about all of the horrible things that have happened to you and still feel safe. There is no code that will do that. Only community can do that. Thank you. So I'd like to end with some advice. Treat everyone like you treat your best friend, and chances are you will be right. It's something I kind of thought of, well, not thought of, it was more like amalgamated from a bunch of other pieces of advice 6 months ago, and it's worked pretty well for me. This leads into point number 2. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being nice. There is nothing wrong with being nice. There is no situation in which being nice is a bad idea. There's not. There is never a situation in which being a jerk is a good idea. The converse holds. Like, don't be a jerk. And I know we say that over and over again, but yet it bears repeating. We need to be nicer to each other. There is nothing wrong with it. And yet we actually actively we make fun of people who are nice all the time. We call them weak. We call them spineless in certain cases, and that's ridiculous because I find it takes so much more inner strength to be nice than it does to be mean. It is so much easier to snap at somebody and tell them they're doing something wrong than it is to turn around and help them. Your community is far more important than your code. Your code affects people for a moment or two, or maybe a night if it's a bad deploy. But your community impacts people for a lifetime. I have never had a support network before, and the fact that I have one now is going to affect me for the rest of my life. I now know what it feels like to be supported, and that will always be with me. Empathy is a muscle. As an autistic person, I know this from experience. But I know plenty of non-autistic people who have not exercised their empathy muscle in recent memory. Empathy is not a thing that happens to you. Empathy is a thing you work on. Thanks. My last piece of advice is codes of conduct aren't just for the people in your community. They're for the people you're missing out on. A lot of people have told me that they feel we don't need codes of conduct because we are all adults. No, we've chased off the adults in a lot of situations. Codes of conduct make people who would not participate in the community feel safe. For instance, my experiences with community were all horrible before I joined a user group. The first user group I joined, it was really early. They had a semi-code of conduct. They had a set of rules. It would not pass for a code of conduct in today's standards, but like I said, we're always improving. The rules were be respectful and be nice. That made me feel safe. I knew I had a rule I could cite if someone was a jerk to me. I knew, and they actually posted the leader's username, Twitter username and email. I knew who to contact if something went wrong. That makes us feel safe, and that is worth everything to the people who aren't in this room, but could be. With that, thank you. I'm the node botanist, or Cass, or Kassandra, and thank you very much for listening.